LHHS, what's going on? This is Mr. Fred again. Today we're going to go over solving rational equations. So let's go ahead and get started into it. So first things first. First thing you need to know about solving rational equations is 9 times out of 10, unless majority of the time, you're going to be using one method called cross multiply. So you use cross multiply only when you see equal signs. If I'm adding or subtracting any part of this equation, you do not use cross multiplication. And we'll see where we'll have an equal sign and an addition sign, and later on, and we're going to use a whole different method. All right. So cross multiplication is basically what we did in 5th grade or 6th grade. Is you multiply across this way and multiply across that way. And I'll go into an example in a minute. Just to let you know, cross multiplication is used whenever you have a proportion, or if you don't know what a proportion is, when one fraction is equal to another fraction. All right. So let's go ahead and get into the steps. First step, solving proportions, which is actually solving rational equations. First step is you need to put parentheses around the binomial and higher. So a binomial, of course, is two monomials together. So for example, n plus 6 or 3n plus 7, that's a binomial. And anything higher would be, for example, like a trinomial. Alright? You want to cross multiply, solve for the variable, and just to let you know, you can always check for your solution. Alright? I'm not going to check for your solution today, just short the sense of time. But if you're on a test or a quiz, it would be best for you to go ahead and check your solution. Alright? So let's go into the first example. So first thing that we need to do, like I said in the steps, is I need to put parentheses around the binomial, right? So now I put parentheses around the binomial, I want to cross multiply, step 2. So I got 5 times x plus 4, and also set it equal to, so multiply this way, and I'll multiply that way. It doesn't really matter which way you multiply. You can do 3x first, then 5x, then this next. Doesn't really matter, but I'm going to go this way for my sake. This way and for this way, which gives me 3x. Right? Now, from here, I need to distribute my 5 in so I can basically solve for the variable x. So I got 5x plus 20 is equal to 3x. Now, this is the part where a lot of people get messed up. First of all, let's start with the first thing I want to mention is the highest power to all these. It's the first power. So that means that I will have only one answer, not 2 answers. And I'll show you what happens when you have the second power later on. Now the next thing is, whenever you want to solve for an equation, you got to have a number, for example, on one side, and a variable, let's say x, on the other side, to be able to solve. Okay? So right here I have a number, a variable, then a number, then a variable. But like I mentioned, I want to have a number on one side and a variable on the other side. So what I need to do is I need to move the variable over. So I'm going to go ahead and move this and bring it over here. So let's do a negative 5x and a negative 5x. Now it does not matter where I put my variable. I can also have a variable on one side and a number on the other side. But the number and the variable have to be on the opposite sides of the equal sign. That's the most important thing that you have to remember. Alright? So hopefully from here, everybody knows what to do. Negative 5 on both sides. This cancels out. Bring down my 20. I get 20 is equal to 2x. Now from here, that's negative 2x. From here, what I need to do, I need to get rid of this negative 2. So I divide by negative 2, and I also divide by negative 2. And I receive x is equal to negative 10. And that's my answer. Alright? Hopefully this is pretty straightforward and simple. Hopefully. Alright, let's go to the second example. I think the second example is actually really easy, but I'll jump into it anyway just to make sure you got it. We don't have a binomial in this situation. We just got our regular monomials all the way around. so I don't have to put parentheses around anything. But what I do need to do is go ahead and do the same method as I mentioned before, which would be cross multiply. So I get 9 times 10, which is 90. And then I get x times 15, which is 15x. And like I said earlier, I want to have a number on one side and a variable on this side, which happens to go good here in this situation. So now I want to solve for x. So I got to divide by 15 and divide by 15, right? And I receive x is equal to 6. Alright? That one was very simple. We don't really expect to see this one on a quiz or a test, but just to get you the concept, understand what's going on. Alright? Now, let's go ahead and jump into the next one. Alright, now this one now we got something a little bit more tricky. Right? Okay, so first thing we're going to do is, we have, like we said for step 1, get parentheses around our binomials. Alright? Now let's go ahead and move into what we need to do. We got cross this way. What do we get? We get 12m minus 3, right? And we're going to bring our equal sign, and we're going to cross this way. And I have 8, 5 plus m. Now from here, do the same thing I did in example 1. I'm going to have to distribute my 12m. So I receive 12m minus 36 is equal to 40 plus 8m. Now, like I mentioned before, I need to figure out where I want to put my variable and my number. Let's say we want to put our variable on this side and our numbers on this side. Doesn't matter which way we want to do it. So like I said, we have two options. We have our number on one side and our variable, let's say in this situation, m, on this side. Or we could do it this way, right? So I can solve. I'm going to go ahead and go with the variable on this side and a number on the other side, okay? This is the only way we can solve for a variable in this situation would be m. So let's bring over 8m on this side. 8m minus here, 8m minus here, right? So now 12m minus 8m is going to give me 4m, right? Bring down my negative 36 and it equals to 40. Now this is going to cancel out. Now from here, what I need to do is, I need to get my number on this side, right? So I can solve. So I'm going to add 36 on this side, add 36 on this side. And now what I'll receive is 4m is equal to 76. And now from here, I got to do what? Solve for m. So I divide by 4, and m, let's say m, I don't know what that is. M is going to be 4 divided by 76. So let's see, it's going to be 19, right? So that's going to give me, m is going to equal 19. Alright, there we go. Example 3. Now, let's jump into our next example. So far we've only messed with the highest exponent we have is 1. But now, and I think in the next example, we're going to mess with exponents that are, for example, 2. And I'll show you what we need to do. Alright. Now let me show you what I mean by exponents higher than 1. So in this situation we got two binomials. Multiply this way. So this becomes y plus 15, right, times y minus 10. And then that's going to equal to, multiply this way, 16 times 9, I believe it's going to be 144, but let's go ahead and make sure, yeah, negative 144, right? So negative 144. Okay, now from here we multiply this binomial times this binomial. Whenever we multiply binomials, we're going to use the box method. So I'm going to put my box right here so you can see what I'm doing. I have a y here, a 15 here, and I have a y here, and a negative 10 here. So y times y is going to give me y squared. Y times negative 10 gives me negative 10y. 15 times y gives me 15y. And 15 times negative 10 gives me negative 150. Now from here, my answer will be simplified. I got to add the ones in the middle of this alike, right? So this will be y squared negative 10 plus 15y is going to give me a positive 5y. And then I got to bring down my negative 150 is equal to negative 144. Now right here it's saying, oh gosh, I have something y to the squared. What do I do with something y to the squared? Now this is something that you really have to pay attention to, you really got to catch. Anytime you have something y to the squared, and let me change color. Anytime you have, for example, something like this, y to the squared, you're going to use a method that we all know by now. You're going to use your x factor. You're going to factor it out. But in order for me to factor it out, I got to do one step first. I got to set this right here equal to 0. Does everyone understand that? In order to use your x factor, which we already know, you got to set this whole equation equal to 0. So what do I mean by setting equal to 0? I got to subtract this. I got to get rid of this negative 44 on the outside. How do I get rid of it? I do the opposite. Since it's a negative, I got to do the opposite of negative, which is a positive. So I need to add 144 right here and add 144 right here. So what ends up happening is when I add it straight down, I get 0. So it's set equal to 0. Now right here, 150, negative 150 plus negative 144 will give me a negative 6, right? So what I'm doing right now is adding like terms. So I add the negative 150 plus the 144 and I get a negative 6, right? Now bring everything else down. Y squared plus 5y. Now we have everything looks, now this looks like a simple trinomial. When it's a simple trinomial, what do we use? We use our x. So let me get a little x right here. I'm going to put my negative 6 at the bottom, right? Because it's multiplication. That 1 times the negative 6 gives me negative 6. I bring my 5 down. What are the factors of 5 that gives me negative 6? What are the factors of negative 6 that will give me, add to be 5? And if you know, it would be 6 and negative 1. So now this transfers into what we already know. Since it's only 1, we don't have to do the factor by grouping. So we get a y plus 6, right? And we get y minus 1 is equal to 0. Now from here, this is basically, we've got everything we need. There's one more step, and we're done, I promise. You set this, whatever's in the parentheses, equal to 0, and this, what's in the parentheses, equal to 0. And then we'll have our answer. So we got y plus 6 equal to 0, and y minus 1 equals to 0. And when I solve for y, that minus 6 on each side, I get y is equal to negative 6. So that's the first answer. When I solve for y here, it's plus 1, right? And so y is equal to 1. So my answers is going to be y negative 6 and y equal to 1. And as you see, it correlates to the highest exponent. If I have something squared, I have 2 answers. And when I did it in the examples before, if I have it to the first power, that means I only have 1 answer. So whenever you have something squared, you know you're going to have to factor it out. And when you know you have to factor it out, you got to set it equal to 0. Okay? Alright, so let's go over one more example. I'm going to go through it slow again. But whenever you see anything to the square power, make sure you set it equal to 0. And then you factor it and you'll receive your answer. And as you see, you get 2 answers. Alright? So, example 5. Okay, example 5. Now we have 3 trinomials. Right? I'm going to change color. So not 3 trinomials, 3 binomials, excuse me. 3 binomials, right? So this is a binomial here, this is a binomial here, and that's a binomial there. Alright? So first step, multiply across. I'm going to do the same way. So x minus 3 and x plus 2. It's going to be equal to negative 2 x plus 2. Right? So our next step, binomial and binomial, we gotta do our little box, right? To make sure we get all our answer. Negative 3, x, and 2. X times x is x squared. X times 2 is 2x. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. And negative 3 times 2 is a negative 6. Now add like terms this way, and we'll receive x squared minus x minus 6 equals to negative 2x, I'm just distributing this in, right, plus 4, right? So negative 2 times x, negative 2 times 2, boom. Now, if you look really closely, what's the highest exponent we have here? To the second power. How many answers should I have? 2. What I need to do to solve for, to figure out how many answers I have, set what I gotta do to this? I have to set it equal to 0. So what I need to do with this? This needs to be 0 right here, right? All this needs to be 0. So how I get rid of it? You just get rid of it. So you add 2x on this side, right? Now I make that go to 0. And I do minus 4 on this side and make that go to 0. So that way I have nothing here. So whatever I do on this side, I gotta do right here. So this would be a plus 2x and a minus 4. Now the whole thing I need to do is I need to add like terms. So what are like terms here? Well, I don't have any like terms here for the x squared, so I bring that straight down. Negative 2x and x are like terms, so that gives me a negative x. Negative 6 and a negative 4 gives me a negative 10, right? And then from there, we do our x. So let's see here. Do I have anything there? And so we got, okay. Oh, that was my, see, I had to check to see myself. I made a mistake, everybody. I actually made a mistake. Negative 2 times 2 gives me a negative 4. I'm sorry, right here, so this should be negative 4, right? Negative 2 times 2 gives me a negative 4. And then this should be a positive 4 right here, okay? Now change this to be a positive 4. And then negative 6 times negative 4. And let's go ahead and erase this. And made a little mistake. This gives me a negative 2. So let me go back and explain my mistake one more time. Negative 2 times x is negative 2, negative 2x. Negative 2 times 4 gives me a negative 4. So now I get rid of this negative 4, I got to add 4 to both sides, right? So negative 6 plus a positive 4 gives me a negative 2. Okay, sorry about that. I knew something was wrong. I had to make sure because I couldn't factor it. And that's the same way you need to do too. You need to go back and make sure your answer is correct. If something doesn't look right, go back and look at your work. This is the reason why I write it out so cleanly like this. Alright? So now I'm going to put a negative 2 right here. Because that 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. I'm put a negative 1 right here. And now what will give me, multiply to be negative 2 and add to be negative 1? Negative 2 and then positive 1. Right? Now, so now I have to the first power, so I can instantly factor this out, which gives me x minus 2 and then x plus 1. And I'm going to set all that equal to 0. Now from here, to solve my answer, take this, set it equal to 0, take this, set this equal to 0. So x minus 2 equals to 0.